Um, Welcome everyone to the latest webinar in Jobskin's series. So this one is measuring and fitting garments via telehealth. I just really want to thank you all for making the time. This webinar is expected to run for 20 minutes. And then what we'll do is we'll stop the recording and then I'm happy to take some questions. Now, as I said, this is pre-recorded by Rosemary. And it will join all of our other webinars that are both on our Jobskin website, which is jobskin.com, and our YouTube page, which if you search for us is Jobskin ANZ. So if everybody's happy, I am just going to pop that recording on. I've done a wee practice, thank you team, and so hopefully you should be able to hear it okay. But if anyone can't hear it, can they just give me a shout out, because I might not necessarily be able to see your pretty faces at all. So please bear with me while I just get this up and running.
Hi there, my name is Rosemary Kendall.
Is that
I'm
better?
the clinical advisor
Yes.
for Jobskin in Australia, and thanks to Veronica, clinical advisor in New Zealand, who I assume will have just introduced this webinar, our first for 2025. My sincere apologies, I had a bit of a diary disaster and so I'm having to pre-record this video as I had this in my diary for the day before that we are actually airing the video, so or the webinar rather, so apologies again. Today we're going to be looking at some strategies for measuring and fitting garments via telehealth. This is part of our ongoing endeavours to support remote therapists and clinicians, but also with this specifically, we're looking at ways that those of you who are city-based therapists and clinicians can support patients, clients who are regional or distant from your clinic to reduce the need for them always to attend in person. So today we're just going to look a little bit at the context in which we're speaking into, have a little bit of a think about the challenges that may provide, and then some strategies for measuring remotely, and also just thinking about how you can upskill what you're doing, what the services you're providing via telehealth that enable you to fit garments remotely. I actually have had many years, I think it's probably pushing about 20 years of experience in telehealth, because the burns unit that I worked in West Australia has had telehealth clinics for many years, and part of that is because I live in WA and the burns service in WA is a statewide service, so our patients travel vast distances from Perth to Kununurra. The flight takes as long as it takes from Perth to Melbourne, so we really were very deliberate in looking at strategies for reducing patient travel time. So I hope that some of my experience will be useful to you as we discuss this today. So the context, obviously, well, I just mentioned Perth to Kununurra, but the geographical challenges of distance. Now, that distance might be big states like WA or Queensland, but it may also be extended travel times in like some areas of New Zealand or other parts within Australia, where although the physical distance or kilometrage may not be quite so significant, the disruption of travel times within both our countries can be quite impactful. I think also there has been a significant change in our approach to providing health services, and that was probably given a major kickstart during COVID, when services that had never used telehealth before started to integrate that very much into kind of service offerings, and many services have not ceased telehealth just because some of the challenges that COVID presented were removed. And I think part of that too is there's also a change in expectation. I think probably for most of us, if you have the opportunity for simple health reviews with your GP, if it's available telehealth, you jump at the chance because it sort of fits quite comfortably into your day. So I think we see that change in expectation with our patient group. But now the challenge with garments. Traditionally, really, it's been a very hands-on process. We, as therapists and clinicians, we're very hands-on in the way we measure, we're hands-on in the way we fit. We have become very dependent on interacting with our patients who are having garments measured or fitted very much in person. And I think for us, that has made us become very dependent on our hands-on experience and judgment. And quite possibly that leads to lack of confidence in doing something in an unfamiliar way. And also therapists who are less confident in the hands-on experience that they may have, probably a little bit less keen to sort of give up the safety of the hands-on interchange. So let's think about some strategies for remote measuring. I think the first thing, when I consider myself as a metropolitan-based therapist, the first thing I need to do is identify a healthcare professional that can deputise on my behalf. Funnily enough, I won't take too long on this story, but when one of my daughters got married, the bridal party ended up getting their suits made in Vietnam because they could get them made a lot more cheaply, and they were beautiful suits. But somebody had to be the dumb bunny who got all the measurements to send to Vietnam, and of course that was me. But one of my now son-in-law's groomsmen was working remotely in WA, and so we had to do this kind of elaborate setup where a physio at the hospital that he was working as a social worker agreed to deputise on my behalf, and we did a telehealth link to measure for a suit. That was way out of my comfort zone because I'm not a tailor. I am very accustomed to measuring for pressure garments, but it was actually quite a helpful exercise to really look to help me think outside the box, because I was using people I didn't know. But I had a physio who was familiar with anatomical terms so that I could guide her in taking these measurements for this groomsman. And this is just the same. So find somebody, it could be, your colleague, OT or physio who works in a smaller clinic, or it might be that there's a visiting nursing practitioner who could help that. But then obviously we need them on board and willing to be involved. Next thing is send the video links. One of the awesome resources that Jobskin has is we have measuring videos for every body part, for every type of garment that you could possibly need. So if you haven't ever looked before, if you go to the website, you will see there is a tab that's called Support and Training. And in the middle there, when you click on Support and Training, I'm sorry, I couldn't get the drop-down menu to stay, but it's on that yellow Support and Training tab. You will see a link to all the measuring videos. And so, for example, if you were asking someone to measure a chin strap, you go to the measuring video for measuring the head and neck. Most of these videos are 2-3 minutes at most, but if you send the link to your designated healthcare professional who's going to be your hands in the remote clinic, then they can look at the process 1 or 2 or 3 times so that they feel familiar and maybe not confident, but they're starting to build some confidence in what you're actually going to ask for them on the telehealth link. Now, one of the other great resources that Jobskin offers is the paper measuring tapes. So your designated person or the person who's acting on your behalf doesn't have to be taking limb lengths and that sort of thing. They just need to use the measuring tapes. And provided that you are there on the telehealth just watching the pressure that they're using when they're securing the tapes, then you're going to get a good and reliable measure. And just remember your experience with this and the sorts of things that you do automatically without thinking. For example, if you're measuring a vest, you always mark the top arm tape. You'll think of that. I assure you, you will think of that, and you'll just ask your person who's deputising for you, just mark at the top arm tape. And now share the tips and tricks resources. There's if your designated person is having to measure a child, that is a little bit more challenging. We have got a pediatric tips and tricks resource, and we also have some tips and tricks for measuring oversized or undersized bodies. They're available on the website, so download them and email them to your designated person, and that will help them feel a lot more confident in what you're doing. And then, of course, use us. Use Jobskin's clinical advisors, that's Veronica and I, and or the designers. We're really happy to sit in on one of these telehealth videos, and we do telehealth videos with you, so it's no different if we're doing it with you and a remote person, and we will guide you and help you with that, and help you build your confidence in then doing further telehealth links. Now, strategies for remote fitting. This is probably the most tricky part, and I refer to my experience with fitting garments via telehealth over actually a number of years, and I'd never really realised how I had gone about building skills to do this via telehealth. It was only when I stopped and evaluated it quite some years ago about how we could replicate this service that I thought, oh, actually, I'm not really doing anything differently to what I do in person. It's just that I am asking someone else to be my hands. And so what I would say is in preparation for, I don't mean in immediate preparation for a session, but if you are sort of looking at offering telehealth links for measuring and fitting, just be really deliberate in evaluating how you fit garments in person. So I know for me, one of the things I often do when I ask somebody to put on a garment, when they've got it fitted, I then pinch the fabric in specific areas that I know are indicative of how the fit goes. Now, I can't, I'm definitely not good enough that when I pinch the fabric, I go, yes, I think that's definitely 25 millimeters of mercury. But every garment you fit, you get more and more experienced in what constitutes a good fit, whether the compression is whether it's feeling snug, whether it's sitting well. And I think if you sort of think deliberately about what you're doing when you do it hands-on in person, you will become more conscious of what you do most commonly, almost without thinking. So you're practicing what it feels and what it looks like, so that then you can then transfer that information. For example, if you're asking a remote health professional to assist you with the fit, then you can say, can I ask you just to pinch on the lateral aspect of the thigh, and then you watch how much fabric that they're able to pick up, if any at all, and so that you are using them as your hands. Now, one of the other things that's really helpful is to identify the anchorage points for fitting. We all know that a good garment anchors well, and at the time that we're measuring, we are selecting where the waist is going to sit, or in a knee-high garment where we're going to stop the knee high. So identify those anchorage points, and so that when a patient is perhaps putting on a garment for the first time, and if you're working with a health professional who doesn't feel so confident, encourage them and say, look, when you put the below knee sock on, you need to pull the sock up high enough so that it's sitting just 1 to 2 fingers below the knee crease, so that you know that they are understanding what they're trying to achieve as they fit the garment. And give really clear instructions for donning. Again, if it's unfamiliar, when you've got a patient who's putting on a garment for the first time, you are there talking them through the process, and you're saying, just make sure it doesn't roll back over itself. Just when you pull it over the feet, you need to sort of stop it from bunching up. You give those same instructions when you're doing it via telehealth. It does, to start with, it feels a little bit funny. It feels like you're sort of being too intrusive or talking into that remote appointment, but it is very clear and helpful information that you provide. And so then ask the patients or the healthcare professional to replicate how you evaluate the fit. I use the example of pinching the garment. So I would say, can I ask you just to pop your finger just under the wrist there at the end of the arm sleeve? And that way you can see how much room there is, whether that wrist is a good fit or whether it's a little bit too snug or a little bit too tight. You can ask them to pinch the fabric, or can you just lift your arms up over your head and then just pull your vest down, and let's just see how it's fitting up under your armpits. Can you put your hands on your waist so that I can see if it's fitting snugly in there, so that you all the things that you do, like I said earlier, just subconsciously almost, to evaluate the fit, you ask them specifically to replicate that. Now, what if you need alterations? This can sometimes get a little bit trickier, but it doesn't have to be. I would say the first thing you can do is you can organise a telehealth link that includes Jobskin, either the clinical advisors and or designers. Just today, actually, I had a telehealth link with a therapist, a remote therapist, and her patient. And as soon as I saw the garment on this lady and I started hearing some of the feedback, I knew straight away that we actually needed the expertise of the designer on that telehealth. And, as luck would have it, our principal designer was available and could jump on the telehealth, and we had a bit of a three-way link so that we could sort that all out together. So it doesn't always have to be booked at a later date. Sometimes you can jag it, and we are free when you've already got somebody with you. And then take photos, take photos, take photos, take photos. Because you are not there in person, ask the clinician who's assisting you to take photos with, for example, if you are measuring a vest, hands on hips, take it from the front, take it from the side. If there are alterations, like imagine you are having to reduce the size of a bra cup, pinch the seam up that approximates how much fabric you're going to have to take it in, and mark it on both sides of the seam, and take photos, take photos, take photos. And when you're taking photos, it's really helpful to reference tape measures. So either you could, if you needed to, you could actually put a paper tape measure in situ over the garment, or you can just drape a tape measure, say, from the shoulder down to the waist, so that the different landmarks provide guidance to the designer when they are trying to alter the garment. So that you can see, for example, exactly what height the bra cup is actually sitting on the person, and whether that needs to be adjusted, or whether there is an issue with the waist. Exactly the same principle for waist high or knee high garments. If you can reference just a normal retractable tape measure, it's incredibly helpful. Now, I hope that gives you some practical tips to sort of adventure into the area of telehealth. It's not rocket science. I know that you know all of these things. It's actually just having the courage to make some of those changes and see how you go. So just to conclude, as always, the information for accessing our support, there's all those measuring videos I mentioned. They're all, and I think the tips and tricks and some other brochures, they're all under the support and training tab of the Jobskin website. There's legions of webinars on the Jobskin YouTube channel, which if you're measuring for a specific garment, you'll probably find a longer version there. Veronica and I, as the clinical advisors, are available on our mobile phones, or probably for both of us, it's email is better. And our awesome design team, you can contact them at designers@jobskin.com, or you can call the factory in Nunawading to speak to them. And as always, ordering, it's no different. You're doing exactly the same thing when you are submitting an alteration, if that's required. So an alteration form, and as I've mentioned already, photos always assist. So now I apologise, because this is pre-recorded, I'm not available to answer any questions, but I'm sure Veronica would be very helpful in answering any questions you may have. Thanks for joining us today. Bye-bye then.
Hello. So, thank you guys very much. Hopefully that was useful to you. And I just wanted to open the floor to any questions. I'm sure, like many of you have identified, and Rosemary's kind of highlighted, that the biggest kind of fear is the fact that it's different, right? As therapists, we're used to touching and feeling, and we sense check ourselves through that really practical process. But actually, we do have some amazing skills, and we are really adaptable. And so, as Rose has said, it is just about having the confidence to try something with someone else. Oh, um, look, I just wanted to thank you guys all so much for joining us today. It's been fabulous. Um, if you have any questions, please, by all means, feel free to pop them in the chat, or to get in touch with either Rosemary or I after this. I know a couple of people had highlighted that they required a CPD certificate. If you are one of those people, please, by all means, pop it in the chat, just your email address and that you would like a CPD, and I will get that organised and sent out to you. As Rosemary and I have both said, this recording will go up on our both our web page and the YouTube channel, and it will go alongside all of the other wonderful videos that we've produced. If you haven't seen them yet, please go and have a wee look. And if you're new to Jobskin, it is a absolute treasure trove of information. And aside from the fact that Rosemary, myself, and the designers are here to help, there is a lot of stuff available on our website that you will be able to work your way through as well. Cool. All right. Well, lovely to see you all. Please enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully that half hour has worked well for you. And we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar in a couple of months' time. You'll find it on our website as always. And we look forward to catching up with you soon. Nice to see you guys. Nice to see you, Nick.